Hi, this is Usha. Welcome to Rathod Science classes. Today in this lecture, we are going to discuss current affairs of 8th April 2022. So let's get started with our discussion and let us try to see today's quote. Today's quote is again motivational quote. So quote is never regret a day in your life. So good days, they will give you happiness, and bad days, they will give you experience. So you should not or you never regret a day in your life, because every day will be not a good day and every day will be not a bad day, right? So we'll be having both good days and bad days in our life. So from bad days we will get some experience, and from goodness we will have some happiness, right? So now let's try to see first topic. It is regarding India-Australia relations. It is regarding India-Australia relations. So this topic is important from your GS paper to under your international relations. So now let us try to see this topic in a very great detail, and this will be important from our mains. So already we discussed about this topic number of times regarding this ECTA, that mainly talks about economic cooperation and trade agreement between India and Australia. So now once again let us try to revise this topic, and this topic is very important from your mains. And from your prelims point of view, you can get a questions like what is this ECTA, and you can get a question like what is this a free trade agreement, like that. So now if you're talking about context, mainly says that yes, recently India and Australia which mainly signed this economic cooperation trade agreement, which mainly signed last week. So actually it is one of the important step for enhancing bilateral trade relationship, for example economic relationship between India and Australia. Okay, so it is very important. And actually you know that so these two major Indian Ocean littoral states, they reflect the growing strategic alignment between New Delhi and as well as Canberra. So because of this agreement, we can see there is increasing of relationship between India and Australia, right? So actually if you're talking about traditional ties between India and Australia, so India which is having a good and strongest ties with Australia in regard of colonial legacy of cricket. So in the cricket we will be having a good relationship from very much past year. So for example we can talk about Border Gavaskar Trophy as well, right? So here with this agreement we are mainly focusing to strengthen our strategic and as well as trade related engagement with India and Australia now. So earlier we used to have a good relationship or strong relationship in the field of cricket, and now with this agreement we are mainly focusing to strengthening our strategic and as well as trade relations with Australia. So if you're talking about what is some background, so to understand this background you have to go back to June 2020. So in June 2020 we came up with virtual summit. We had virtual summit. So in this summit, prime ministers of India and as well as Australia, they decided to increase or to strengthen relationship in the level of comprehensive strategic partnership between these two countries. And they also talked about defense related ties and even strategic ties. So that mainly gained some significant traction, and latest economic cooperation trade agreement which mainly going to focus or to strengthen bilateral relationship between India and Australia. So actually this agreement which mainly covers economic and as well as commercial relationship. So it will be including trade in goods, it will be including trade in services, rules of origin, trade barriers to trade, and dispute settlement mechanism, and as well as custom procedures. So these are some important areas which are mainly covered under this new agreement. And we are also targeting to double our trade between India and Australia. It should be like about $50 billion, and the target here is, so within 5 years we need to achieve this target of trade between India and Australia, that should be $50 billions. Okay, and we are also focusing on lowering of tariff barriers such that will increase the imports and as well as export between these two countries. And in this context, Australia also agreed to eliminate tariffs, that is like for example duties, which is more than 96% of Indian exports. So what are the exports that we are doing from India to Australia? So Australia, which is going to reduce the tariffs, that is about 96%. So here whatever the goods that we are exporting to Australia, so on these goods there will be decreasing of tariff by 96%. Okay, that means we can see there is a tariff, that is there will be no import duty that is mainly seen on 96% of our Indian exports. Okay, so how much amount of Indian exports that we are doing, so on that Indian exports, 96% of this Indian exports, there will be elimination of tariff, right? And some of the important goods which mainly includes or which are mainly coming from this labor intensive industries like textile, footwear, etc. And in reciprocal, so India, it is also allows duty free entry of 85% of Australian goods. So 96% of Indian goods are allowed in Australia, and India we are going to allow about 85% of duty free entry of this Australian goods, right? So in this way what happened, that will mainly increase the trade between India and as well as Australia. And one important key area which also present in this agreement here is movement of people. Okay, that is natural movement of natural persons. So it will be helpful for improving or fostering of people to people contact, and even that will be increasing or that will be strengthening even trade, bilateral trade in services as well. So for providing of services, people to people movement is essential. And for this, so this agreement which is also focusing on people to people contact and as well as people movement. So this agreement which is also aims to support access for a range of Australian and even Indian skilled service providers, investors and businesses, visitors, etc. here, right? And Australia also now agreed on reciprocal basis, and it is mainly said that we are going to ease visa restrictions and we are going to enable students at varied levels for higher education and to stay periods ranging from 18 months to 4 years. So if the students from India, they want to go to Australia, yes, they can go, because now there will be the ease of visa restrictions to Australia, and the time period which is allowed here is 18 months to 4 years of time. And if you're talking about whatever the free trade agreements that we had passed, so that are less beneficial, but this type of agreement which is having more beneficial, that will be fostering or boosting our trade relations or economic ties between India and Australia. So this is about this topic. And now let us try to see next topic. It is regarding petrol prices in India. So as you all know, due to this Russia-Ukraine crisis, we are having some impact on crude oil prices across the world. And actually what happened, so we are importing, so actually India, it is a import dependent country regarding this crude oil. So we are importing crude oil from West Asian countries. So actually earlier we used to get oil from Iran. So because of this JCPOA and Iran's nuclear deal and USA sanctions on this Iran, so we made our imports of this oil to zero. So we are not getting any oil from Iran now. So if there is any easing of sanctions on this Iran, means we can get crude oil from this Iran. So it will be cheaper cost because the transportation is not much required as compared to the other countries where we are getting this oil, right? So actually what happened, because of this international or geopolitics that is happening across the world, that led to increasing of prices of this crude oil. For example, we need to talk about OPEC plus, and we need to talk about Brent crude oil, etc. So those things you have to keep in your mind, so before reading this article, right? So now let us try to see this topic in a very great detail. So what happened, latest data which mainly shows that there is increasing of petrol prices in last 17 days. So from last 17 days, there is increasing of petrol price in the market, and this which is going to continue for some more time in India. So if you're talking about even the crude oil prices, they are softening in the month of March here, and even we are seeing there is exchange rate which mainly improved slightly. So because of this, the degree of rise in this retail petrol prices may reduce in the coming days. So what happened in the month of March, we are seeing there is decreasing of price of this crude oil in the market, and even there is also improving of this exchange rate that is happening. So because of this, in the future we are going to see there will be decreasing of this petrol prices. But if you're talking about reduction in this retail prices, that can only expected when the government, which is mainly cutting this excise duty on this petrol. So what happens? So we are getting crude oil from other countries. So this crude oil will be going to refineries. So in these refineries we are going to get petrol, diesel, and as well as other petroleum products like Vaseline, kerosene, so and so, right? So what happened on this petrol and diesel? Here center government will be imposing tax. Okay, central government will be imposing tax, and not only central government, even state government which is also imposing tax. So because of this tax which is imposed by both central and as well as state government, that will lead to increasing the price of this petrol and diesel in the market. And one more thing I want to say here, whenever we are moving from one state to another state, so this petrol prices will be also altering because of the state imposition of tax. Some state will be imposing high amount of tax and some states will be imposing less amount of taxes. So based on that tax which is imposed by that state government, so prices will be mainly seen like changing from one state to another state, right? So if you're talking about some important data, it mainly says that in last 17 days, the retail petrol prices were revised upwards 14 times. So there is 14 times we can see there was revision of this petrol prices from 95.41 on March 21 to the retail price that is seen in Delhi that increased to 105.41 by April 7th. So actually in our state it was like 125 rupees per litre. Okay, and even in other metros like Mumbai, Kolkata, Chennai, the prices have been reached the record levels, that is 120 till 120 rupees. We can see the petrol price in other metros. Okay, metros in these areas like Mumbai, Kolkata and Chennai, there is high rate of inflation, especially in our state it is like 125 rupees per litre. And if you're talking about why are the prices raising, so you have to understand this. So what happened in November month, central government said that they are going to cut this excise duty on this petrol such that this petrol will be, the price of this petrol will be decreased, and that will be helpful to control inflation in the country. Okay, and later on even some states they also came up with the decreasing of this value added tax. So because of that we saw there was no increasing of petrol and diesel prices for 138 days. That is a very long time. So the excise duty cut in this November became necessary as crude oil prices are rising in the time. So because of this, some geopolitical things which are mainly happening across the world, that led to increasing of this crude oil prices. So earlier it was like 70.6 per barrel and now it increased to more than 83.6 per barrel. Okay. So however, after January 2022, crude oil prices again increased the cost and even the exchange rate which mainly fell. Okay, and that led to driving of import cost. So whenever there is import cost which is mainly increasing, that will also leads to current account deficit as well, right? So what happened? This is the thing which mainly said in the month of March. So we saw there is a very high peak of this petrol prices, that is about 117 rupees, that is mainly seen. Okay, so this is one important reason for the increasing of prices of this petrol. And now let's try to see next topic. It is regarding EPF, that is Employees Provident Fund. So this topic is important from your GS paper to under polity, and even it will be important from your economy point of view, which mainly comes under your GS paper 3. And now let us try to see context. So if you see context, it mainly says that our union budget 2021 to 2022. So in this union budget, our finance minister, that is union finance minister, introduced a new provision in this employment provident fund. Okay, so who are mainly going to get salary which is more than 2.5 lakh per annum. Okay, so who are getting the salary of or package of more than 2.5 lakhs per annum. So here there is some new provision to the tax income on this provident fund contributions. So this is mainly announced by our finance minister in union budget 2021 to 2022. So actually this employees provident fund, it is account, so which is a mandate, that means it is compulsorily for the people who are working in this formal sector. and they are getting the salary of up to 15,000 rupees per month. And whenever these formal workers, they are mainly present in an employee's company or any factory which is mainly having 20 employees. Okay, so if they are having, if any company which is having 20 employees and those are mainly registered, that means the formal workers means if they are getting salary of 15,000 also, they have to have this EPF account. It is mandatory. So if you're talking about some details, it mainly says that, so an amount which is equivalent to 12% of this basic pay. For example, if a person who is getting 100 rupees of salary, means out of this 12%, that is 12 rupees, they will be given by the workers. So the same amount, that is again 12 rupees, will be given by this employer who employing those laborers, okay, those formal workers, and they will be mainly given in, or they will be mainly deposited in the EPF account of that so and so person. And the contribution limit for this tax-free income for government employees and any other PF accounts where employers do not contribute was set at 5 lakh per year. So whenever the annual income, it is more than, or it is more than 2.5 lakh per year, that is like 5 lakh per year. So in this, what happened in this PF, other PF accounts where employers, they do not contribute here. So under this EPFO, it will be maintaining like a non-taxable account for contributing up to 2.5 lakh per year, and taxable amount for the members who contribute over this threshold. So over this threshold, whenever the people are coming, so there will be the tax that is imposed. So how much tax? That is 20% of tax will be levied on such income of this EPF members. Right? So this is about this topic, and now let us try to see next topic. So if you see this image, you might be understanding this topic, which is mainly talking about manual scavenging. So this topic, it is very important from our society point of view, even from our polity point of view, which mainly comes under our GS paper 2. So actually this topic, it is important from your mains, not from prelims. So now let us try to see this topic in a very great detail. So if you see context, it mainly says that according to Social Justice and Empowerment Ministry, total of 971 people, they lost their life while cleaning sewers or septic tanks since 1993. Since 1993, 971 people, they died, especially regarding this cleaning of sewage or septic tanks. So what happened? The year law which is mainly prohibiting employment of manual scavenging was enacted. So at that time we came up with this prohibition of manual scavenging act. And later on in 2020, Indian government and our society, they mainly focused on inhumane nature of manual scavenging. And later on in 1990s, civil society which mainly started a movement to abolish this dry latrines. Okay, to abolish dry latrines. Here the people mainly came up with some movement in year 1990s, and this movement has been demanding the abolition of this dehumanizing practice. So it is mainly talking about abolishing of this manual scavenging. Okay, and they said that we need to introduce some technology or mechanization, especially to clean this. Okay, to clean this. And in this context, various state governments and even previous central governments, they responded to these civil society demands by introducing the laws to stop this manual scavenging, and also they focused on to provide some incentives for the building of toilets. So if you see some details, here we can talk about even Swachh Bharat Abhiyan mission. So in 1993, government promulgated an act. So this act, which is mainly prohibiting the construction of unsanitary dry latrines and employing this manual scavenging. They should not go for building of these dry latrines, and they should not employ any manual scavengers. So this act, which mainly defined manual scavengers as a person engaged in or employed for manually carrying this human excreta. So manual scavenger, nothing but, if you have gone through some polity books of your NCERT, so you will be having the stories regarding one woman who is working as a manual scavenger. She belongs to this SC, that is a scheduled caste. So even when she is going to a tea shop to drink a tea, so the tea will be not given in the cups that are mainly used in that hotel. So they will be these people who are working as a manual scavengers, they will be carrying their own things like glasses, etc. Right. So in that glasses only they used to pour this tea here. Okay, so in this way here, this manual scavengers, why they are seen like that? Because so these people mainly engaged in employing especially for this human excreta. So these people are also carrying this human excreta. So even if you are reading NCERT books of polity, then you will be getting more examples regarding this manual scavengers, right? So the government which mainly said that these dye latrines or latrines other than this water seal latrines, and this manual scavenging, it is not just about the practice of this practice which is related to this dry latrines, but even we are having many insanitary latrines or open defecation. So whenever there is introduction of this employment of manual scavengers and construction of dry latrine prohibition act in 1993, so state government had a post called as scavengers. So scavengers are nothing but they manually remove this human excreta in the households and as well as some designated places. So 10 years later we came up with the Safai Karmachari Andolan. So it is a movement. So Safai Karmachari Andolan, it is a social movement. So it is mainly against manual scavenging, and even it is against manual scavenging things. And later on we came up with filing of this public interest litigation in the Supreme Court, and the demand was mainly to demand from the Supreme Court. It mainly directed the state governments and even union territories to strictly enforce the law to stop this practice of manual scavenging. Okay, and that led to increasing of pressures from civil society, and coupled with the interventions of Supreme Court, and as coupled with this interventions of the Supreme Court, and even that also forced the central government to conduct a survey on this manual scavenging in 2013. And after once the survey did this reports of this survey which mainly says that dry latrines and manuals removal of this excreta which is still prevalent in India. Okay, in the same year, so again government came up with this introduction of this prohibition of employment as manual scavengers and their Rehabilitation Act. Okay, so through this act, the construction of these dry latrines was drastically reduced, that is reducing of this building of these dry latrines, and the number of deaths in manholes, sewers, and as well as septic tanks which is mainly increasing, or we can see like it mainly continues remaining very much high. And the present government had plans to amend this 2013 Act to completely mechanize the cleaning of sewers and as well as manholes to build new sewers. So I want to pose you a question here. So in many hotels we are using this robot. So why can't we use this robot like technology especially to clean this sewages rather than going for manual scavenging? So let me know your opinion also in the comment box. Okay, so this is about this topic, and now let us try to see next topic. Title says Russia suspended from Rights Council. So this article is important from our international relations which mainly comes under our GS paper 2. So now let us try to see context. So if you see context, it mainly says that Russia's membership from this Human Rights Council, okay, so which it was elected in 2020 was suspended. So actually this Russia which is mainly elected in this Human Rights Council in 2020, and now there is suspension of this Russia from this Human Rights Council because of this Russia-Ukraine conflict. So actually this resolution which mainly passed, okay, which mainly passed by US and as well as European Union and several other Latin American countries. Okay, and what is the stand of India? India which is mainly abstained from this voting. So if you see some important details, it mainly says that, so the resolution, it is about suspension of rights of membership of Russian Federation in the Human Rights Council. So this resolution which is mainly saying that to suspend this Russia from this Human Rights Council. Actually this resolution which mainly proposed by US, European Union and some other Latin American countries. So to pass this resolution we need 2/3 of majority of present and voting. So the countries which are mainly abstaining, they will be not come under this present and voting. Okay, so they need to get 2/3 of majority, right? So now let us try to talk about some facts regarding this United Nations Human Rights Council. So this was mainly constituted from its predecessor organization, that is United Nations Commission on Human Rights. Okay, so to overcome credibility defect of previous organization. And if you talk about headquarters at Geneva, Switzerland, so this headquarters is very important from your prelims, not from UPSC but from state service examinations. And if you're talking about composition, so United Nations Human Rights Council, which has 47 members which are mainly serving at any time, with elections held to fill up the seats every year. And elected members will be having a term of 3 years. Right? And if you're talking about functions of this United Nations Human Rights Council, so it mainly passes non-binding resolutions on human rights issues. Right? And it will be going for periodical review of all 193 United Nations member states. And it also oversees experts' investigation of violation in specific countries. Okay, so these are some important functions. And now let us move on to next topic. It is talking about India-US 2+2 dialogue. So we are going to discuss some key issues. So this article is also important from international relations, which mainly comes under your GS paper 2. So now let us try to see context. So if you see context, it mainly says that our external affairs minister and our defense minister. So you have to remember this thing. So this is mainly between external affairs of foreign minister and our defense minister. So they are going to have this 2+2 dialogue. So 2 members from this foreign affairs and 2 members from this defense. So they will be having a meeting. So we are going to have this 2+2 dialogue between India and USA, that is going to be held on April 11th, okay, in Washington. So we are talking about some details. It mainly says that, so the dialogue would enable both the sides to undertake a comprehensive review of cross-cutting issues. So we are going to have some discussions on some issues between India and USA. For example, per se, we can talk about foreign policy, we can talk about defense and security related issues here. Okay, so these are some important issues of strategic guidance, and even they will be providing some vision for the further consolidating of relationship between India and USA. So the announcement from US State Department, which mainly emphasized the role of democratic values and expanding of defense partnership. So we are mainly going to talk about expanding of our defense partnership from the both sides, and we are also going to have discussion regarding the cyber security and as well as public health issues. Right. So apart from that, we are also going to have some relationship regarding India and USA. For example, in this democratic institutions and even Indo-Pacific regions, and even we are going to talk about territorial integrity, human rights, and as well as religious and global peace and prosperity as well. Right. So the upcoming meet would feature talks even about the defense cooperation between the two sides, especially regarding free and open Indo-Pacific region as well. So this Indo-Pacific region is one of the focus points now in all the countries. So if we're talking about some facts regarding this 2+2 dialogue, it is a ministerial level, highest level institutional mechanism between the two countries, and in this format, defense and foreign ministers, they will be sitting together and they will be talking the issues, and India mainly holds this 2+2 dialogue with Australia, Japan and USA. So this is about this topic. And now let us try to see yesterday's questions. So first question is regarding Buddha's teachings. So we will be having Sutta Pitaka, Vinaya Pitaka and Abhidhamma Pitaka, right? So first statement here is Sutta Pitaka. Sutta Pitaka, it is about religious disclosure. Okay, religious disclose. And if you are talking about Vinaya Pitaka, it is about rules of monastic discipline. So actually they are interchanged. So we can eliminate these two statements. And Jataka tales are part of Sutta Pitaka. Yes, this is correct. So that option will be 2, 3 only. And next question is regarding Mauryan city administration. So Megasthenes has given a vivid description of this Mauryan city administration. Which of the following are correct? So first one is city council divided into 6 committees and each committee had 5 members. Yes. And there was a committee to look after foreigners. Yes. And Arthashastra also mentioned this. Arthashastra, it is not mentioning these 6 committees. So correct option will be 1 and 2 only. And these are the today's questions. The first one, it is about Sangam Tamil poems. And next question is about megalithic burials. Try to give me the correct answer for these questions in the comment box. So now let us try to see Hindu newspaper PDF. So before that, I want to make a small announcement. So here we are launching this mains answer writing practice course of 1 year. Okay, it is going to be launched from April 10th. So for the registrations, please do call on this number 8074765513. So this is the number, that is 8074765513, and you can do WhatsApp message or you can directly call us on this number, especially to have some registrations regarding this mains answer writing practice course. So I think you already know about the details of this course. So if you want to get the total details of this course, so in the description box there will be like a timetable or time schedule of this answer writing program is given. So you can download that PDF, and if you go through that, then we will be having a clear cut idea. So still, if you have any queries, you can call on this number to resolve your queries. And for registrations, so please call on this number. Okay, so next one here is we are also ready to launch this pen drive course for your foundational course of 2023. So even though if you are beginner or even if you gave your attempt, so this course is absolutely useful and absolutely beneficial as well. So we are dealing with each and every topic in a very great detail, and we are focusing on conceptual clarity that it is very much necessary to clear your prelims, mains and interview, right? So if you have any queries, so please call us on this number and try to resolve your issues and try to join these courses that are absolutely beneficial, and these courses are also very much affordable, right? And now let us try to see today's Hindu newspaper PDF. Yes, this is our today's Hindu. So date here is April 8th, 2022. And this is our Delhi edition. So I discussed this topic regarding this Russia suspended from Rights Council. And this second article is regarding no trust vote. So that is about no confidence motion. So you have to refer that topic from our polity. And if you move further, here you can see High Court asked Delhi is EC, that is State Election Commission, to list VVPAT compatible EVMs. That is we can say like, so these EVMs are nothing but electronic voting machines that we are using now, and VVPATs will be like a small slip that will be coming beside that. So actually this VVPATs and EVMs that are mainly very important from our electoral reforms topic that will comes under our polity from GS paper 2, and even in your Lakshmikant they are talking in detail regarding this VVPATs and as well as EVMs. Right, and if you move further, there is one article regarding this criminal procedure bill. Already we discussed this topic number of times, and this is the time for you to revise that topic once again. And if you move forward, you can see this editorial page. I discussed about this India-Australia relations, and you can see this topic regarding Ukraine. Already we discussed number of times regarding India's neutrality regarding this resolutions which is mainly passed in United Nations. And if you move forward, you can see one article regarding this petrol prices. I discussed that topic. And in text and context, I discussed about this employees provident fund income, and I discussed regarding this manual scavenging. And if you move forward, I discussed about this 2+2 dialogue and actually this budget session which mainly ended. So here you need to know about what is this monsoon session, budget session and winter session and time period. So that will be important from your prelims. And if you move forward, there is one article regarding public participation sought for child protection. So actually we discussed about this child protection helpline number 1098, right? And actually it is mainly talking about protection of children who are mainly facing some distress, right? So here in this NCPCR is also very important. So you have to know some facts regarding this NCPCR. So here we can also talk about Mission Vatsalya. So already regarding this Mission Vatsalya, I think 2 days ago we discussed one editorial. And here this article says that Defense Minister, he mainly issues a indigenization list. So this is very important from Atmanirbhar Bharat regarding defense equipment. And the next topic here is Ukraine calls on NATO to provide more weapons. So Ukraine, which is mainly asking this NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, to provide more weapons to continue this warlike situation here in Ukraine. And if you move forward, you can see this PM Gati Shakti PLI, that is a production linked incentive, will offset global heads, spur growth, finance minister. Okay, so actually this article is very important, and even in our budget lecture we studied about this, what is PM Gati Shakti and what are the important pillars or principles of this PM Gati Shakti. You have to rewind that, and you have to focus on what is this PLI, production linked incentive scheme. So that thing also I discussed detailedly in our budget class, right? So these are some important topics that appeared in this today's newspaper. I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Please subscribe to Rathod Science Academy and don't forget to like, share and comment my videos. Thank you so much.